What happened during the Permian? Today, we embark on a dizzying journey through time, an era forgotten, long before the dinosaurs, where giant forests dominated the Earth, where the first reptiles reigned supreme, and where the largest mass extinction in history would wipe out everything. What really happened 250 million years ago? But before embarking on a new adventure, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Thank you, and have a good journey. The Permian extends from about 299 to 252 million years ago. The last phase of the Paleozoic, it serves as a bridge between a deeply transforming Earth and the following era, the Mesozoic. During this period, the continents were connected, the climate oscillated between extremes, and life diversified. But already, major upheavals signaled the largest extinction crisis known, which would disrupt the planet and its forms of life, marking a major turning point in Earth's history. At that time, the continents formed a single block, Pangaea. It profoundly influenced the climates, ocean currents, and the fauna and flora. The immense Panthalassa Ocean surrounded the supercontinent, while the nearly enclosed Tethys Sea limited its exchanges with the ocean. This geography favored strong aridification of the inland areas, far from the coasts, where rain was scarce. The seasons then alternated between violent monsoons and long droughts, a phenomenon called the Pangaea mega-monsoon. The central areas of Pangaea experienced scorching heat during the day and cool nights, a challenging climate for life. The Permian is divided into three major phases: the Ciceralian, the Guadalupian, and the Lopingian, together covering nearly 47 million years. These internationally recognized subdivisions help scientists precisely pinpoint the appearance or disappearance of species. In 2023, through the study of zircons in the Meishan Basin in China, they reduced the uncertainty of dating to only a few 100,000 years. This remarkable progress paves the way for a coherent global chronology, unifying data from one continent to another. These advances rely on several complementary methods. Astrochronology, inspired by Milankovitch, analyzes cycles related to Earth's orbit and the tilt of its axis, detected in sediments like those in Orenburg, Russia. Paleothermometers study the composition of fossil marine organisms, revealing the temperature of ancient waters. These data combine with precise geochronology that uses laser ablation and mass spectrometry to date the formation of minerals. Together, these techniques reconstruct the climatic history, seas, and major upheavals from hundreds of millions of years ago. The term Permian was adopted in 1841 by Sir Roderick Murchison, a Scottish geologist, during his surveys in the province of Perm, western Russia. It was the first time a geological period was named after a Russian location, marking an openness to international scientific collaboration. Impressed by the local geology, Murchison gave this name, which quickly became established in the global scientific vocabulary, highlighting the importance of this discovery for understanding Earth's history. Between 2024 and 2025, new research modeled the volcanic activity of the Siberian Traps and its connection to the biosphere. Published in Frontiers in Earth Science, they reveal a 10 degrees C or 18 degrees C rise just before 252 million years ago. Volcanism released enormous quantities of greenhouse gases, rapidly disrupting the climate. Scientists are also exploring its impact on the ozone layer, which would have then weakened protection against ultraviolet rays. On a geological scale, this rapid phenomenon profoundly altered Earth's climate. The recent discovery of fossil footprints at nearly 2,900 meters or 9,514 feet in the Italian Alps shows that some reptiles and amphibians lived in extreme environments. These traces reveal they roamed semi-arid areas, punctuated by temporary oases. Published in November 2024, this discovery invites a re-evaluation of habitat distribution in the Permian. The fossils suggest that these animals, far from the central plains of Pangaea, had a great capacity for adaptation, traversing elevated terrain and thus exploring more varied environments than previously thought. The Permian, less well known than the age of the dinosaurs, is just as fascinating. Before the appearance of large saurians, various terrestrial vertebrates, amphibians, and mammal-like reptiles inhabited Pangaea. Giant ferns and primitive conifers covered some areas, while others were deserts. In the Panthalassic Ocean, brachiopods and corals thrived. Gradually, the climate changed, and some species declined. Current research explores how the intense volcanism of the Siberian traps, combined with the land configuration, caused an imbalance leading to the end Permian crisis. In the soaked forests of Gondwana, from Antarctica to the edges of India, Glossopteris anchors vast fan-shaped rhizomes in acidic peatlands where distant volcanoes rumble. Its fluted trunks, on average 10 meters or 33 feet high, but sometimes doubling this size, bear ribbon-like fronds, 2 to 35 centimeter, or 1 to 14 inches long, whose cuticle reveals, under the microscope, a stomatal density correlated with CO2 fluctuations. Each southern autumn, these leaves fall in fragrant sheets that get bogged down, turn to coal, and become embedded in rhythmic varves of ashes and clays. They then become paleomagnetic and isotopic archives that bear witness to the gradual breakup of the supercontinent and the rise of a climate with contrasting seasons. Small pouch-shaped sporangia, carried on specialized branches, release bisecate grains capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers, attesting to forests able to recolonize landscapes disrupted by fires and pyroclastic flows. Nearby, Gangamopteris, stockier in build, unfurls oval blades of 5 to 19 centimeters or 2 to 7 inches, broad and 3 to 8 centimeter or 1 to 3 inches, lacking a median vein but radiating like a fan from the petiole. First discovered in the red sandstones of India's Damodar region, its fossils also mark Australia, South Africa, and Patagonia, sketching a polar belt where monsoons loaded with volcanic sediments alternate with dry winters illuminated by a low sun. The microtopography of its stomata indicates altitudinal thermal gradients. The higher you go, the more the stomatal apparatus compacts, indicating water-saving abilities. The cuticles even preserve epicuticular wax films rich in N-alkanes, which have become valuable organic markers for reconstructing surface soil temperatures in the middle Permian. The story of Gangamopteris is also the story of pioneering paleobotanists. William Feistmantel in 1876 saw in it the missing link proving the floristic unity of the southern hemisphere and inspired Alfred Wegener a half-century later. On the edges of slightly brackish deltas, chordate stands as woody columns, often exceeding 30 meters or 98 feet, with a trunk up to 1.2 meters or 4 feet in diameter. Its ribbon-like leaves, up to 1 meter or 3 feet long and streaked with fine resinous canals, hang like large pennants, capturing the slightest photons filtered by tropical clouds. Lamellar cones, 15 centimeters or 6 inches, brimming with winged seeds, detach and sail beyond lagoons, colonizing still unstable coastal banks. Growth rings show variable annual amplitudes. In some Russian specimens, the late interval indicates saline stress, probably seawater intrusions during paleo-tempestuous storms. Pneumatophore roots, preserved in life position, prove a physiology tolerant to sulfide-soaked soils, foreshadowing the future adaptation of conifers to Jurassic estuaries. At the bottom of black peat bogs, calamites erects immense jointed stems, 30 to 50 meters or 98 to 164 feet tall, hollow, smooth, and regularly grooved. Each node sports a whorl of leafy branches, while the central spongy pith serves as an air reservoir to survive seasonal floods. The secondary rings, rare in modern horsetails, betray explosive growth, up to 5 cm or 2 inches in diameter, gained in a single summer rich in nutrient volcanic sediments. When the waters recede, the stems die, fall over, then silicify. Their molds are found in sandstones, sometimes still wrapped in pale blue chalcedony crystals. The spores, dispersed by the billions, coat stagnant water layers and agglomerate into fossilized pollen sheets, true thermometers of local Ciceralian humidity. At the junction of the Permian and Triassic periods, Voltsia occupies the now drier interior plains. This small conifer, ranging from 3 to 7 meters or 10 to 23 feet in height, features slender branches adorned with spiral leaves. The juvenile leaves are ribbon-like and later reduced to succulent scales, indicating a strategy to combat transpiration. Its ovoid female cones, 4 centimeters or 2 inches long, contain ovules enveloped in healing resin. Their chemical composition, rich in labdanoids, provides insights into the water stress gradient at the beginning of the Triassic. Voltsia covers the semi-arid dunes, stabilizing soils thanks to fasciculate roots, and upon dying, creates micro-oases where Triassic cycads and ginkgos will germinate. Its presence in the famous German Bunsenstein Formation and the Kyrgyz-Medigen Basin demonstrates a rapid repopulation of continents devastated by the Great Permian Extinction. In the parched clearings of Red Texas, Kempter Highness, measuring 25 to 35 cm or 10 to 14 inches in length, scampers between blocks of sun-heated sandstone. Its triangular skull, 7 centimeters or 3 inches wide, carries up to 8 rows of bulbous teeth. Microware with crossed facets suggests it grinds tough seeds, insect shells, and small calcined bones. The axial skeleton has robust zygapophyses, allowing it to lift its thorax off the scorching substrate, while sclerotic rings found in situ suggest it had crepuscular vision, an important advantage for roaming during cooler hours. Concentrations of fragmented eggshells associated with its remains evoke ephemeral collective burrows, possibly the first hint of semi-social behavior among anapsid reptiles. More massive, Seymoria, reaching 55 to 65 centimeters or 22 to 26 inches, embodies the transition from amphibians to reptiles. Its ossified spine features ribs with a double-headed capitulum, lending the ribcage a reptilian-like rigidity. Yet, lateral sensory canals on the skull and traces of internal gills in juveniles reveal an aquatic larval stage. Long bones display alternating zones of fibrous bone and lines of arrested growth, suggesting a seasonal metamorphosis linked to periodic water withdrawal. Footprints found in New Mexico illustrate its graceful gait, with splayed toes for better weight distribution over mud. Within these tracks, tiny circular marks have been attributed to the wiggling tails of younger individuals walking in the wake of adults, possibly indicating a brief period of parental care. The herbivore Cassia moves forward, a rounded silhouette of 1.2 meters or 4 feet for 20 to 25 kilo or 44 to 55 lbs, with a blunt snout lined with spatula-like teeth, ideal for scraping tough phyllades. The ribs, arched like staves, encircle a gigantic fermentative cecum teeming with cellulolytic bacteria, confirmed by the internal volume reconstructed to nearly 40% of body mass on 3D scans. Tiny osteoderms scattered in the dermis may have reduced water loss and allowed the storage of mineral salts. Isotopic analyses on the oxygen in the bones suggest moderate metabolic activity, sufficient to regulate temperature under a climate alternating between intense daytime heat and cool nights. In the Petropavlovka Formation, alignments of Cassia fossils possibly betray peri-seasonal gatherings around receding water points. Not far away, the formidable Diadectes, 2.5 to 3 meters or 8 to 10 feet long, plows through the river plains. Its massive 40 cima pyrrhus or 16 inches skull features a diastema, a toothless gap separating chisel-shaped incisors from crenulated molariforms. This configuration allows it to strip woody vegetation and then grind it effectively. The widened scapulas provide muscle attachment for lifting the neck and advancing head down, like a vegetarian battering ram. Microtomographic analysis of Haversian canals suggests sustained growth with a few winter pauses, indicating a long life strategy. Diadectes competes for herbaceous resources with the more recent Periosaurs, bringing forth an era of competition that will accelerate the rise of taller and more predation-resistant flora. Between marshes and channels, Ophiocodon, ranging from 1.8 to 3 mrs or 6 to 10 feet in length, slithers with a smooth swim. Its narrow skull, sometimes 55 centimeters or 22 inches, houses a double row of conical teeth adapted for catching fish, but fine wear striations on the pre-canine teeth also suggest an opportunistic diet, including terrestrial carrion. The long bones are hollowed with a spongy medullary cavity, favoring buoyancy. The ribs show pachyostotic histology, indicating an amphibious lifestyle, weighing the animal down to maintain balance in shallow water. The webbed foot tracks unearthed in Indiana show an alternating step, claws sinking into the mud, before a sudden tail flick erases the trace, indicating powerful caudal propulsion. Offshore, Helicoprion plows through the Ciceralian seas with a streamlined silhouette of 4.5 meters or 15 feet, lacking aggressive dorsal fins, but armed with a spectacular dented whorl. Modern CT imagery reveals that the spiral, lodged on the mandibular symphysis, contains up to 180 teeth, the last formed pushing the previous in a perpetual helical movement. The enamel layer shows oblique wear marks, indicating a brutal slicing of soft-bodied organisms, probably cephalopods. Its global distribution, from the phosphatic shales of Idaho to the limestones of the Urals, shows it favors continental shelves rich in ammonites. Its oxygen-carbon isotopy reveals seasonal migrations to cooler waters for reproduction. In forest lakes and winding rivers, Xenocanthus, a freshwater shark, serpentiform ranging from 1 to 2 ounces or 3 to 7 feet, undulates thanks to a continuous dorsal fin from nape to tail. A serrated, hollow neutral spine connected to mucus glands would have released defensive toxins. Its V-shaped teeth, equipped with 3 cusps, suggest a mixed diet: armored invertebrates, amphibian larvae, and young bony fish. Oval eggs, up to 5 centimeters or 2 inches, fossilized in circular nests, suggest benthic spawning. The isotopic composition of the enamel indicates a stable freshwater life, but some individuals show an alternation of brackish water, confirming an euryhaline tolerance that favored its expansion across both hemispheres. Under the aquatic canopy, Paleoniciforms such as Amblypterus, tiny bony fish measuring 6 to 9 centimeters or 2 to 4 inches, shimmer due to their ganoid scales with microcrystals of guanine. Their heterocircle tail ensures a sudden acceleration, while jaws adorned with pointed teeth denote an insectivore diet. The otoliths, exceptionally preserved in the oil shales of Germany, display annual growth rings. Their width contracts during seasonal anoxic phases, offering a high-resolution record of the Permian hydrological cycle. Monospecific schools trapped during ash falls confirm a gregarious behavior that optimizes mass reproduction during late-season rains. At the edge of temporary ponds, clam shrimps conchostracans, ranging from 2 to 25 millimeters or less than 1 inch, close their bivalve shell, decorated with concentric ridges. Inside, 100 or so eggs, rich in tree hellos, can enter diapause for over a century, resisting desiccation and even intense UV rays. They've been reanimated millions of years later in laboratory experiments replicating anoxic conditions. Their branched antennae beat the water to filter microscopic algae, leaving fine striations on the bottom that fossilize into superimposed radial ichnofossils. Their serial occurrences in the Argentinian sediments of the Pangaea Basin allow quantification of Upper Permian pluvial cycles on a decadal scale. In shallow bays, the last eurypterids roam fine sand, once covered with crinoid forests. These arthropods, now mostly under 20 centimeters or 8 inches, far from the Silurian giants, exhibit a segmented carapace reinforced with chitin, impregnated with calcite, which pigments with dark bands during saline stress episodes. The metastome, a large ventral plate, acts as a piston to suck in flesh shreds or small bivalves, and the chelicerae end in crossed hooks, capable of crushing even thin shells. Their retreat leaves impoverished assemblages that bear witness to marine regression. However, traces of ventral dredging in the red limestones of Scotland attest they exploited intertidal lagoons to the brink of extinction. Far offshore, the mysterious tentaculidids drift in vertical columns. Each conical shell, 5 to 20 mm, 0.2 to 0.8 inches long, possesses helical microlamination encrusted with pyrite, likely a residue of sulfate-reducing bacteria. Their internal tube, partitioned at almost regular intervals, trapped gas pockets providing neutral buoyancy, keeping them suspended in the thermocline. The analysis of their strontium reveals isotopic anomalies that precede by several millennia the crisis at the end of the Permian, making these tiny cones robust sentinels of oceanic change. Despite decades of debates, their phylogenetic position oscillates between lopophorates and primitive mollusks. New synchrotron tomographies might finally lift the veil on these conical ghosts, ultimate witnesses of the abyss before the dawn of the Mesozoic. The Ciceralian, between approximately 299 and 272 million years ago, marks a turning point in Earth's history. During this period, continents that had been separate began to assemble, profoundly altering the landmasses and oceans. The major collision between Laurussia, a large continental mass formed from what would become Europe, Asia, and North America, and western Siberia, transformed this sedimentary region, creating the Uralide mountain chain. This phenomenon is explained by plate tectonics, a powerful engine that moves and shapes the Earth's crust. The Uralides, named after the current Ural Mountains, resulted from the closing of an ancient ocean, the Paleo-Ural Ocean. The oceanic crust between Laurussia and Siberia was driven beneath the continents, causing folding, uplift, and mountain formation. The peak of metamorphism, the moment when heat and pressure altered the rocks, dates back to around 285 million years ago, creating typical schists and gneisses. Despite erosion that has reduced these mountains, valuable clues remain, such as the Obsidian ophiolitic belts, oceanic rocks integrated into the continental crust, proving the disappearance of the original ocean. During the Ciceralian, several intracratonic basins, stable zones far from active boundaries, formed through the subsidence of the continental crust. These basins accumulated sedimentary deposits over long periods. Among them, the Perm Basin in Russia, the Illinois Basin in North America, and the Karoo in southern Africa tell a story of marine phases, evaporation, and continental deposits. Modern studies, through drilling and surveys, allow the reconstruction of sedimentation and climate, thereby illuminating the terrestrial geography of that era. The Perm Basin, located in eastern Russia, and which gave its name to the Permian period, is famous for its red sandstones, formed in arid environments where iron oxidation colors the sediments. The presence of evaporites like gypsum and rock salt reveals episodes of intense evaporation linked to a climate marked by the monsoon of Pangaea. These deposits narrate the alternation between wet periods with temporary rivers and lakes and dry phases conducive to vast desert plains. This illustrates an extreme seasonality of the climate. The Illinois Basin, located in the American Midwest, was then much closer to the equator, benefiting from a warm and dry climate. As in the Perm Basin, red sediments bear witness to significant surface oxidation. However, shallow marine incursions also punctuated this region, depositing carbonates transformed into limestone. This alternation between red continental sedimentation and marine episodes reveals considerable environmental variability, where emerging lands and shallow seas succeeded each other over time. In southern Africa, the early Karoo illustrates an intracratonic basin with wide fluvial and lacustrine layers mixed with aeolian deposits. Paleontologists have discovered fossil footprints of terrestrial animals adapted to a changing climate. This mix of sediments and traces of life reflects the dynamics of a transforming Earth. Throughout the Ciceralian, these continental collisions and intracratonic basins shaped a complex landscape, essential for understanding the geological history of our planet. During the Ciceralian, between approximately 299 and 272 million years ago, Earth experienced aridity taking hold in many continental regions. Imagine a vast supercontinent occupying most of the northern hemisphere and extending southward, almost entirely surrounded by oceans. This configuration of Pangaea favored the formation of vast sand deserts, called ergs, typical of a very dry climate. In these areas, rains were rare, and vegetation grew only in a few temporary oases or during short, wetter periods. A striking example of a continental desert during the Ciceralian is found in Novaya Zemlya, an archipelago in northern Russia, bordered by the Arctic Ocean. Then situated at high latitude, where one would expect a cold climate, dunes formed by strong winds nevertheless developed. The fine sand strata testify to this wind transporting grains over long distances, creating dune fields comparable to the vast ergs of today's Sahara. The Ciceralian was not only a period of drought. Researchers have found evidence of episodes of sudden and intense rains, such as mud cracks, polygonal fissures in dried mud after exposure to air. During these rains, water temporarily accumulated in shallow basins, forming mud quickly dried under a hot and sunny climate. These fossil traces testify to alternating cycles between passing moisture and strong evaporation, revealing a more contrasted climate than often imagined. Spotted paleosols, ancient soils with colorful patterns, formed by repeated cycles of abundant water and then desiccation, are also found. These spots result from the redistribution of iron and other minerals, according to the presence of water and oxygen. These soils tell a climatic story, revealing rapid changes linked to extreme monsoons, called mega monsoons. These phenomena were intensified by the configuration of Pangaea, creating strong temperature contrasts between the coasts and the interior lands, thus amplifying the seasonal rain regime. To measure the climatic variations of the Ciceralian, scientists employ precise paleontological and geochemical data. A recent study from the University of Chicago analyzed the enamel of freshwater shark teeth from this era. These fossils are found in sedimentary continental basins, areas not covered by the sea, with lakes and rivers. The teeth retain isotopic traces, notably the ratio between two forms of oxygen, called delta 18 oxygen. It varies according to water temperature and evaporation, thus revealing past climatic conditions. By analyzing these fossils, researchers discovered that during the Ciceralian, seasonal temperature differences could reach 20 degrees Celsius or 36 degrees Celsius in some continental basins. This harsh climate alternated between long periods of intense heat and cooler seasons, although the cold remained moderate compared to current high latitudes. The presence of freshwater sharks shows that, despite the omnipresence of deserts, permanent or temporary water sources persisted, offering essential refuges for aquatic life. This large seasonal amplitude illustrates a climate marked by mega monsoons. Intense precipitation temporarily flooded plains and lakes, supporting terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. Then, drought returned, drying these areas and leaving traces in the mud. The spotted paleosols confirm this repeated wet-dry cycle over long periods, shaping the landscapes of the Ciceralian and offering valuable testimony to this contrasted climate. Inside the lands, there were shallow valleys, plateaus, and vast expanses swept by strong winds, conducive to dunes. Vegetation, rarer than in humid periods, settled mainly in areas where water was retained or on soils rich enough to support drought-adapted plants with thick cuticles or water reserves for survival. Forests, infrequent, concentrated near permanent watercourses or on heights benefiting from occasional rains. By reconstructing these ancient climates, researchers are painting a picture of an Earth demanding for life. Temperature variations and irregular rains often caused ecological upheavals. Animals had to migrate or take refuge in more hospitable areas when heat and drought reached their peak. Short monsoons were enough to create temporary marshes where aquatic life thrived, before quickly disappearing as the water receded. The study of oxygen isotopes remains essential for understanding this ancient climate. By analyzing the isotopic composition of rocks and fossils, researchers estimate seasonal temperatures. A 20 or 36 degrees variation in the same basin illustrates a marked instability, typical of regions far from the stabilizing influence of oceans. Without this maritime buffer, inland areas heat up and cool down much faster than coastal zones, creating large thermal gaps and an unstable continental climate. This dynamic is not limited to Novaya Zemlya. Other fossil sites scattered across Pangaea also show cycles of spaced rains followed by long droughts. Ecological balance depended on complex interactions between atmosphere, soils, and waters. The rare underbrush and vegetated areas offered a refuge to primitive amphibians and small reptiles, while the immense dune desert presented a hostile environment, interspersed with only a few oases of temporary life. The Ciceralian, between about 299 and 272 million years ago, is the first major phase of the Permian, marked by the rise of terrestrial life. This period sees the appearance and diversification of pelycosaur synapsids, as well as the emergence of the first therapsids. At the same time, giant insects populated the sky, favored by a high oxygen rate and a particular climate. To better understand this era, we will explore these major groups and share an anecdote about the preservation of fossil sites, thus revealing the richness of the continental biosphere in the Ciceralian. The pelycosaur synapsids, primitive mammalian reptiles of the early Permian, share a common ancestor with modern mammals. Among them, Adaphosaurus, an herbivore with a large dorsal sail, and Dimetrodon, a carnivore with a similar sail. This bony sail, covered with skin and blood vessels, played a crucial role in thermoregulation. Recent computer models suggest that it helped capture or evacuate heat depending on the ambient temperature, allowing these animals to become active earlier in the morning thanks to a natural airflow around the sail. The first therapsids, a group derived from synapsids and distant ancestors of mammals, appear at the beginning of the Ciceralian. Among them, the Biarmosuchia, with robust skulls and a strong bite, and the Dinocephalia, herbivores and carnivores, with bony thickenings for fighting or intimidation. These animals lived in varied environments, including the semi-arid Karoo Basin. In 2025, on Seymour Island near Antarctica, a Tapinocaninus skull revealed, through microscopic tomography, internal details of the brain and bones. This illustrates the importance of modern techniques for better understanding their biology. In the Ciceralian, the insect world saw the appearance of giant winged species, favored by an oxygen-rich atmosphere. Discovered in Kansas in 2024, a fossilized wing of Meganeuropsis permiana set a wingspan record at 77 centimeters or 30 inches. Close to modern dragonflies, these formidable predators had powerful mandibles and large eyes. Their life cycle included an aquatic larval phase before adult flight. This well-preserved wing reveals precious details on the evolution of flight. The dry climate and vegetation offered favorable niches for these giant insects to hunt and protect themselves. Another testimony of the Ciceralian comes from the Richard Spur site in Oklahoma, where since 2023, a local initiative has been protecting the fossiliferous galleries threatened by erosion and mining. This project, supported by residents, researchers, and enthusiasts, aims to preserve the deposits, support research, and raise public awareness. Richard Spur delivers rare fossils of pelycosaurs, therapsids, and microsaurs, trapped in sediments preserving their anatomy. Visitors can discover this heritage during guided tours, delving into the fascinating universe of terrestrial fauna of the Ciceralian. During the Ciceralian, marine life was flourishing again in the shallow seas bordering the supercontinent Pangaea. Aquatic communities were diversifying, revealing original forms such as producted brachiopods, notably the genus Neospirifer. At the same time, rugose corals, recognizable by their pleated calcareous structures, formed colonies depending on water temperature and nutrient availability. These ecosystems testify to the richness and complexity of marine life at that time. The producted brachiopods, stemming from an ancient lineage, are small marine animals with bivalve shells. In the genus Neospirifer, the shell, often ribbed with radial ridges, gains rigidity against currents. They preferred coastal environments where oxygenated waters and fine sediments created a stable habitat. Often confused with mollusks, they are distinguished by the orientation of their valves and their anchoring system. It consists of a peduncle, a fleshy stalk, that fixes them to the substrate, ensuring nutrition and protection against predators. The rugose corals, or rugosa, lived alone or in colonies. Unlike modern corals, they had internal radiating septa. Their small polyps were in symbiosis with microscopic algae, providing them energy through photosynthesis. In the warm, shallow seas of the Ciceralian, this symbiosis was facilitated by light. These corals sometimes formed small reefs, offering refuge to fish, invertebrates, and brachiopods. Despite their abundance, they faced constraints related to sea level variations and possible increases in salinity. Stromatolites, calcareous structures created by cyanobacteria, testify to extreme marine conditions. By trapping sediment particles, they form layers visible in cross-section. During the Ciceralian, their presence often indicates high salinity, linked to strong evaporation or isolation of the basin. These bacteria thrived when competition with other organisms was low. A recent 2025 study confirmed high water alkalinity, indicating a high concentration of dissolved ions, reinforcing the idea of a marine environment marked by these extreme conditions. This high alkalinity, linked to significant mineral inputs and low water circulation, favored the precipitation of chemical elements in the carbonate matrix. With little competition, stromatolites shaped often hostile environments, but some mollusks and arthropods found refuge there, taking advantage of calm areas. Deposits of salt and gypsum testify to episodes of partial drying, increasing salinity. Over thousands of years, these ecosystems evolved with the climate and continental configuration, sketching a marine landscape where massive brachiopods and pioneering algae coexisted. After the Carboniferous crisis, ammonoid nautiloids reconquered the oceans during the Ciceralian. These spiral-shelled cephalopods had a chambered shell, allowing them to control their buoyancy by adjusting gas or liquid, facilitating their vertical movements to escape predators. Their return illustrates the resilience of life in the face of rapid changes. Fossils show a great diversity of species, some adorned with complex patterns, likely used for camouflage or display. The reappearance of ammonoid nautiloids marked a turning point in the reconstruction of the marine networks of the Ciceralian. While brachiopods and corals built their habitats, these mobile cephalopods expanded predation and dispersion. In deep bays with very salty waters, stromatolites offered refuge to resistant microorganisms, promoting the formation of calcareous shells. The interaction between these groups reflects the ecological richness, where competition, symbiosis, and predation shaped biodiversity. The Ciceralian thus reveals a key phase, mixing ancient forms and the emergence of new evolutionary pathways. The end of the Ciceralian is a key moment where the climate, land, and atmosphere change profoundly. Two phenomena mark this period: regional anoxia, identified in the Kungur Formation, and the discovery of fossil traces of tetrapods, the first animals to walk on a vast craton in northern China. These events show that the planet was already undergoing significant stresses, foreshadowing the major upheavals that would occur later in the Permian. Anoxia refers to a marine or lacustrine environment deprived of dissolved oxygen, making life difficult for most species. It results from high organic production combined with low water mixing, consuming all available oxygen. At the end of the Ciceralian, the Kungur Formation in the Urals recorded this phenomenon. Geochemical and radiometric analyses link this anoxia to the transition between the Casimovian and Gelian stages, revealing that early stresses were already weakening marine ecosystems before the Great Permian Triassic crisis. The Kungur Formation is essential for measuring the magnitude and recurrence of anoxic episodes, likely repeated. Several contributing factors included drop in sea level, water stagnation, and high productivity. The supercontinent Pangaea experienced irregular, sometimes intense rainfall, followed by droughts, a climate described as a mega monsoon. Massive soil erosion brought sediments and nutrients, stimulating the proliferation of microorganisms that consumed all the oxygen. This vicious circle, the result of interactions between geography, climate, and life, reveals the fragility of aquatic ecosystems in the face of regional disturbances. At the end of the Caesarean, a fossil trace discovered on the North China Craton offers the oldest evidence of quadrupedal walking. Reported in August 2024 by Global Times, it shows alternating pentadactyl steps, indicating coordinated movement with 4 limbs. This discovery pushes the diversification of tetrapods in Asia further back in time and reveals their experimentation with different locomotions. The steps suggest a morphology adapted not only for walking, but also for slow running, indicating that some animals of this era were active terrestrial predators or prey. The North China Craton, a vast region of eastern China, preserves many late Paleozoic records. The discovery of tetrapod fossils is anticipated here, but each new trace provides key information. By studying the footprints, researchers estimate the biomechanics, speed, weight, and probable classification of the animal. It appears to be a robust quadruped, capable of supporting its weight out of water. In an era marked by semi-arid zones and seasonal river basins, being able to cover long distances to find water or hunt was vital. This dated trace sheds light on the evolution of continental faunas at the end of the Caesarean. These two events illustrate the fragility of ecosystems at the end of the Caesarean. Anoxia in the Kungur Formation reveals marine imbalances, while the pentadactyl trace shows emerging terrestrial adaptations, highlighting the complexity of this major transition. The Guadalupian, between approximately 272 and 260 million years ago, sees the Earth transform under the effect of tectonic and environmental movements. The supercontinent Pangaea then dominates, gathering most of the landmasses into a vast block stretching from pole to pole, harboring diverse ecosystems. The movements of the continents also modify sea levels, a phenomenon called eustasy, which directly influences the distribution of coastal zones, marine habitats, and biodiversity. These marine fluctuations fascinate geologists and paleontologists as they shape the ecosystems of the time. During the Guadalupian, sea levels gradually fell, primarily due to orogenic movements raising Pangaea and internal tectonic phenomena rather than ice caps. This retreat created new land areas, colonized by a diverse flora and fauna, while the coastline receded. Continental deposits such as sandstones and conglomerates covering ancient marine sediments were observed. The still flooded areas housed lagoons and salt marshes, where sediments rich in evaporitic minerals accumulated. In the Delaware Basin in Texas, thick layers of Guadalupian limestone testify to a dynamic marine environment. These rocks, formed by the accumulation of remains of marine organisms with calcareous skeletons, such as algae. The area was a shallow platform extending offshore. Despite the sea level drop, vast underwater expanses favored the formation of reefs, which relied on ancient calcareous foundations. These carbonates reveal a complex balance between biological and sedimentary activities, tracing variations in water advancement. In these reefs, marine sponges or poriferans formed massive structures, colonizing shallow seabeds. Their porous bodies played a key role in filtering water and regulating the local environment. During the Guadalupian, their diversity in the Delaware Basin reached a peak due to the abundance of nutrients, stable substrate, and clear waters. Often associated with corals and calcareous algae, they built true underwater walls, offering refuge to mollusks, crustaceans, and fish. This environment, rich in interactions, stimulated competition and evolution. The presence of sponge reefs during the Guadalupian shows that the chemistry of the water was favorable for forming calcareous skeletons with controlled acidity and enough calcium and bicarbonates. Thanks to geochemistry, researchers have reconstructed these conditions, revealing an average high temperature, yet bearable for marine life. The sponges and other organisms did not undergo significant stress, unlike the abrupt warming that would occur later. The Guadalupian thus illustrates a dynamic balance where lowering sea levels and reef prosperity coexist. During the Guadalupian, tectonics manifested through convergences and collisions forming mountain ranges. Although Pangaea was mostly united, active zones remained, altering marine basins and ocean circulation. These folds and uplifts disrupted watercourses, created new lakes, and influenced coastal salinity. The Guadalupian is a transitional period marked by the formation of mountain arcs, the structuring of sedimentary basins, and a relative decline in sea level. Evidence in Texas and elsewhere confirm these processes linked to marine environments rich in carbonate deposits and reefs. The Guadalupian is a key period of the Permian marked by significant climatic fluctuations. Specialists have identified a cooling phase of about 4 degrees Celsius or 7 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by a rapid warming of 6 degrees or 11 degrees. These variations, although modest in appearance, profoundly affected the carbon cycle in the oceans, atmosphere, and terrestrial ecosystems, revealing the first signs of major climate disruption. The carbon cycle refers to the natural exchanges of carbon among the atmosphere, oceans, soils, biosphere, and lithosphere. Plants absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, transforming it into organic matter. When they die or are consumed, carbon is either stored in sediments or released into the atmosphere through respiration, decomposition, or combustion. Over millions of years, this cycle is influenced by factors like sea levels, volcanic activity, and continental configuration that regulate global balance. Researchers have reconstructed the Guadalupian temperature variations by studying lithium isotopes in marine sediments. An isotope is a version of a chemical element, differing in the number of neutrons. Lithium, present in traces in seawater, sees its proportion vary depending on rock weathering, volcanism, and oceanic pH. The analysis of these isotopes in core samples worldwide allows retracing exchanges between the atmosphere and oceans, revealing past cooling and warming episodes. A cooling of 4 degrees Celsius or 7 degrees Celsius, even moderate compared to other periods, profoundly disrupted terrestrial and marine ecosystems of the Guadalupian. It reduced plant productivity and altered the distribution of animals on land. In the sea, this cooling disturbed ocean circulation and the flow of warm and cold currents, affecting biological diversity and the underwater food chain. These changes show how a temperature variation, even modest, can have major impacts on life. Then, a rapid warming of 6 degrees or 11 degrees occurs, detected through lithium isotopes, indicating a major climate disruption. This thermal peak could result from intense volcanic activity, releasing significant amounts of carbon dioxide, or the formation of sedimentary basins rich in organic matter, promoting carbon release. These combined factors likely increase CO2 concentration, triggering a powerful greenhouse effect responsible for this abrupt thermal surge in geological records. The Guadalupian is distinguished by a configuration very different from today. A massive supercontinent united most of the landmasses, while vast seas occupied the rest. This organization strongly influenced climatic fluctuations, as the arrangement of the continents altered atmospheric currents, precipitation, and how carbon dioxide was absorbed or released by soils and vegetation. The link between tectonics, mountain formation, and atmospheric chemistry played a central role in the carbon cycle. To study these changes, scientists use marine sedimentary rocks that accumulate in layers at the bottom of the oceans and constitute excellent natural archives. They reveal the chemical evolution of seawater and the atmosphere. By measuring the isotopes of lithium, carbon, boron, and oxygen, researchers reconstruct past variations in temperature, salinity, pH, and carbon dioxide content. These data allow for a coherent picture of the climatic transformations that marked the Guadalupian. Cooling followed by warming influenced the solubility of carbon dioxide in the ocean. When the temperature decreases, the water can dissolve more CO2, while warming reduces this capacity, causing outgassing to the atmosphere. This positive feedback mechanism can accelerate warming as observed in several geological periods. In the Guadalupian, after the cooling, the ocean was likely saturated with CO2, releasing significant amounts. This release, combined with volcanism, helped intensify temperature rise. These data reveal the fragility of the climate in the Guadalupian and shed light on the Earth's global dynamics. The Capitanian, a subdivision of the Guadalupian dating from 272 to 260 million years ago, saw a spectacular rise of marine reefs. This development resulted from the contribution of various organisms, siliceous sponges, bryozoans, and red algae producing calcium carbonate. Together, they built vast and complex underwater structures. The El Capitan site in New Mexico is an emblematic example of this important reef boom. Siliceous sponges possessed an internal skeleton made of spicules, tiny silica rods that gave them rigidity. They thrived in warm and clear waters, often close to 30 degrees CO or 86 degrees. Attached to the seabed, these sponges filtered the water to capture nutritive particles. Their growth, combined with the calcareous deposits of red algae and bryozoan skeletons, gradually formed imposing underwater walls, genuine barriers against ocean currents. This alliance strengthened the sturdiness of the reefs. Bryozoans form colonies composed of numerous zooids, each living in a calcareous chamber and filtering the water to feed. Over time, these colonies fuse, filling the spaces left by the sponges and red algae, and add layers of limestone that strengthen the structure of the reefs. Their role is essential for the stability of the Capitanian reefs, ensuring a favorable habitat for many other forms of life. Red algae, or rhodophytes, possess pigments allowing them to capture light at depth. By producing calcium carbonate, they reinforce the framework of the reefs. Each group plays a complementary role. The sponges form a rigid structure, the bryozoans fill the spaces, and the red algae increase the calcareous mass. Together, they build impressive reefs, sometimes several dozen meters or hundreds of feet high. This synergy marks a major turning point in the evolution of the Middle Permian reefs. The El Capitan site in New Mexico is a major reference illustrating the biological richness of the Capitanian. Its limestone cliffs, exposed to the open air, contain numerous fossils of sponges, bryozoans, and red algae, witnessing the layering of marine communities. Studies show that repeated sea level fluctuations influence the growth of reefs and the distribution of species. El Capitan thus remains an essential key to understanding the history of reefs during this period. El Capitan also features a fascinating network of underwater cavities. In 2023, a team of cave diver scientists mapped these caves, revealing well-preserved structures. The corridors carved into the limestone sometimes contain fragments of intact reefs, including veins of ancient sponges. The walls show strata formed by the growth of red algae, bryozoans, and bacteria, providing a direct testimony of the internal dynamics of the reefs during the Capitanian. According to the divers, the most remarkable find is the almost intact preservation of microbial laminates, fine layers deposited by colonies of microorganisms. Usually erased by erosion and currents, these layers are here locked in the limestone. Researchers believe that particular chemical conditions and rapid sedimentation allowed their preservation. This discovery offers a unique opportunity to directly study the microbial contribution to the construction of Capitanian reefs. It's an exciting discovery. The microbial laminates reflect the alternation of phases favorable or unfavorable to bacterial proliferation. By analyzing their thickness, composition, and arrangement, scientists reconstruct the variations in sunlight and nutrients. During the hot months, with waters over 32 degrees or 90 degrees Celsius, microbes formed a thick biological mat. During cooling periods, the laminates thinned. Each layer thus testifies to a dynamic balance between climate, microbial activity, and the growth of other reef builders, shedding light on their history. Beyond its scientific interest, the mapping of the underwater caves reveals the internal complexity of a fossil reef. These galleries, formed by dissolution and fracturing after the creation of the reef, provide access to the deep layers of siliceous sponges, microbial mats, and red algae deposits. This cross-section shows how surface organisms piled up and consolidated over time. It is a rare window into the living architecture of a distant past, where everything remains surprisingly well-preserved and readable. On a global scale, reef construction has experienced phases of expansion and decline, often linked to variations in sea level and climate. The Capitanian during the Guadalupian is distinguished by the strength of its sponge, bryozoan, and red algae communities, which built remarkable reefs. These structures provided a rich habitat, protected the seafloor from erosion, and created microenvironments favorable to great diversity. El Capitan thus symbolizes the pinnacle of reefs from that distant time. This chapter shows how the cooperation between various organisms created immense marine reefs, transforming the underwater landscape. Today, modern reefs are threatened by rising temperatures, ocean acidification, and pollution. The El Capitan fossils reveal their resilience, but also their fragility in the face of changes. This example from the Capitanian reminds us that life can thrive spectacularly while remaining sensitive to environmental fluctuations. These lessons underline the urgency of protecting our current reefs, because, as El Capitan has demonstrated, flourishing ecosystems can disappear if the oceanic balance is durably disturbed. During the Guadalupian, the Earth underwent a period of profound environmental upheavals. On land, it was the golden age of therapsids, a group of vertebrates precursors to mammals. Among them, the dinocephalians hold a major place and continue to fascinate paleontologists since their discovery, enriching our understanding of this fascinating era. The dinocephalians are distinguished by a thick skull and massive bodies. Among them, Ankylosaurus, a powerful predator, and Tapinocephalus, a robust herbivore, illustrate this diversity. Their adapted skull allowed frontal confrontations, impacts aimed at the top of the skull during territorial disputes or rivalries. These charges served to defend territory, access food, or choose a mate. Bone studies reveal thick structures capable of absorbing these impacts, particularly pronounced in Ankylosaurus, whose morphology suggests aggressive and territorial behavior. Tapinocephalus, a herbivorous giant, had a thick skull, but was not designed for predation. Its robust jaw without sharp canines was ideal for chewing tough vegetation. This peaceful dinocephalian likely grazed in semi-arid plains, where vegetation concentrated near temporary and seasonal water sources. Fossil footprints near ancient riverbeds confirm the feeding strategy of Tapinocephalus. Isotopic analyses of nearby deposits reveal climates exceeding 40 degrees C or 104 degrees Celsius in the hot season, followed by long droughts. This extreme alternation favored the gathering of large herbivores around temporary oases, creating assemblies conducive to social interactions and combat. In 2024, researchers discovered bone lesions on a skull of Ankylosaurus curvatus, showing several healed fractures after repeated fights. This finding suggests that these carnivores probably lived in structured groups, as it is rare to survive such injuries without social protection or proximity to other group members. This gregarious behavior suggests that Ankylosaurus did not hunt alone, but used collective strategies to better track its prey or protect its offspring. The healed bites on the skull also testify to internal struggles, probably to access reproduction or climb the dominant group's hierarchy. In parallel to the evolution of large vertebrates, holometabolous insects, whose cycle includes a complete metamorphosis, were diversifying rapidly. Numerous perfectly preserved fossil larvae have been discovered in Bitterfeld amber, offering fascinating three-dimensional specimens. The term holometabolous describes a development with several stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Unlike the incomplete metamorphosis of hemimetabolous, this complete process offers ecological advantages. The larvae exploit different food resources from the adults, thus reducing competition within the same species. This favors their success and diversification. Bitterfeld amber in Central Europe has allowed the exceptional three-dimensional preservation of these insects. The almost total absence of oxygen in the resin preserved their body structures intact. Researchers are now studying the smallest details, such as the implantation of setae and the structure of the larval head, to better understand their evolution and compare them to their current descendants. Dated in 2024, this discovery confirms that holometabolous insects were already well established in the Guadalupian. Their adaptability allowed them to exploit various ecological niches, supporting emerging biodiversity. While dinocephalians dominated the lands, these insects pollinated primitive plants and contributed to the decomposition of organic debris in prehistoric soils. The environments of the Guadalupian were challenging, with strong climatic fluctuations and droughts affecting the survival of terrestrial animals. The evolutionary success of therapsids is explained by a more active metabolism and better blood circulation, promoting effective thermal regulation. The dinocephalians developed physiological strategies to dissipate heat during seasonal, even extreme peaks. The presence of healed wounds reveals the effectiveness of repair biology in these large carnivores, foreshadowing the advanced healing mechanisms of mammals. Their bone tissues show dense vascularization, associated with a higher metabolism than that of contemporary reptiles. This physiology gave them a crucial advantage in recovering from violent confrontations or frequent diseases. The fossils of the Guadalupian are mainly preserved in red clay sedimentary basins, indicating arid environments, punctuated by heavy rains and mud flows. The remarkable preservation of skeletons and insects in amber offers a rare glimpse into terrestrial life at that time. The golden age of therapsids illustrates the richness and complexity of ancient ecosystems, where carnivores and herbivores competed with adaptations to survive. The dinocephalians, with their skulls designed for confrontation, symbolize this period, while holometabolous insects attest to the ecological evolution preparing for the Triassic. During the Guadalupian, terrestrial life went through a turning point known as the Olsen's crisis, characterized by a notable decline in terrestrial vertebrates. Long perceived as a major extinction event linked to climatic upheavals, this crisis is now being reconsidered thanks to detailed studies of the Peace River Formation in Texas. These studies suggest that it might be a conservation bias rather than a true global biodiversity catastrophe. To understand Olsen's crisis, this episode must be placed in its ecological context. At that time, Earth was experiencing significant climatic changes. The supercontinent Pangaea had vast arid zones where vegetation was sparse, giving way to deserts and semi-arid regions with irregular precipitation. These conditions favored certain vertebrates adapted to heat and drought, while others struggled to survive. This climatic instability is often invoked to explain the variations in faunal diversity observed in the fossil record. Olsen's crisis, a concept coined in the early 20th century, refers to a marked slowdown in the diversity of tetrapods, including amphibians and reptiles. Initial data suggested that during the Guadalupian, many species might have disappeared, creating a temporary ecological void. For a long time, scientists thought it was a major event. Hypotheses included sudden cooling, abrupt warming, habitat fragmentation, or increased competition among predators. Detailed analysis of the Peace River Formation in Texas challenges the notion of a generalized extinction crisis. This sedimentary formation contains a succession of clays, siltstones, and a few coarser levels. In 2025, a team conducted a systematic excavation accompanied by taphonomic analyses, studying fossilization conditions. The results suggest that what seemed like a massive disappearance is largely explained by incomplete sampling and variations in fossil preservation, depending on the sites. The Peace River Formation exhibits facies variations that affect fossil conservation. In certain horizons, bones are quickly buried in fine sediments, favoring their preservation. But elsewhere, runoff waters, salinity variations, and underground circulations degrade bones before fossilization. This creates a discrepancy between real biodiversity and what fossil collections reveal. Thus, gaps in the records do not necessarily indicate an extinction, but often unfavorable conservation conditions. In 2025, specialists reanalyzed the Texan deposits with new methods. They used precise geological mapping and electron microscopy to study diagenesis, the transformation of sediments into rocks. They compared the taxa present in different layers to assess species continuity. The result shows a local decline occurred, but without evidence of a global collapse. Thus, speaking of a major extinction for these deposits seems excessive. This reconsideration of Olsen's crisis illustrates the complexity of interpreting Earth's life archives. Although the Guadalupian climatic variations exerted selective pressure on many species, it remains uncertain to speak of a catastrophe without solid evidence. The debate persists on the real impact of factors like humidity alternation, drought, or atmospheric carbon dioxide fluctuations. While some terrestrial vertebrates declined, others found refuge in ecological niches, suggesting a reorganization rather than a collapse. The debate focuses on whether Olsen's crisis was local or global. Proponents of a real crisis argue that abrupt climatic fluctuations might have weakened ecosystems, causing a diversity decrease in Texas and elsewhere on the supercontinent. On the other hand, those who support the idea of a conservation bias emphasize the differences in sedimentation and fossilization, which can distort this perception. Studying other basins with varied preservation conditions will be crucial to distinguishing these hypotheses and better understanding the true extent of the crisis. Olsen's crisis remains a complex subject where paleontology, geology, and climatology intersect to reconstruct the history of the Permian. While a local decline in vertebrate diversity in the Guadalupean is confirmed, its global extent remains debated. The discoveries of 2025 urge caution, emphasizing the importance of methodological rigor and taking into account the limitations of the fossil record to interpret the evolution of life. For about 5 million years, the Earth goes through a critical phase called the early Lopingian, or Wuchiapingian, at the end of the Permian. During this period, the climate undergoes major changes, with a sharp increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide and a dramatic drop in dissolved oxygen in the oceans. It may seem astonishing to imagine that hundreds of millions of years ago, land, seas, and the atmosphere underwent profound upheavals. Geological and fossil evidence confirms this reality. To understand this shift, two essential factors must be studied: the accumulation of CO2 and the rapid decline of oceanic oxygen. Carbon dioxide, composed of 1 carbon and 2 oxygen atoms, is a major greenhouse gas. The higher its concentration in the atmosphere, the more it traps solar heat, causing a rise in global temperatures. During the early Lopingian and Wuchiapingian, geochemical analyses show that CO2 exceeded 2,000 parts per million, ppm, or 0.072 ounces per cubic foot, which is 4 to 5 times higher than today, where we are approaching 450 ppm, or 0.0016 ounces per cubic foot. Imagine an ancient world where CO2 concentrations were much higher, leading to intense global warming. To study atmospheric and oceanic conditions, researchers analyzed boron isotope 11 in fossil corals. These colonial marine animals with calcareous skeletons incorporate elements present in the water, including boron. The proportion of this isotope reveals the CO2 concentration and ocean acidity at the time. Recent works, dated 2024, confirm marine acidification due to high CO2 absorption, forming carbonic acid and lowering pH. This acidity threatens marine life as it promotes the dissolution of calcareous shells and skeletons, affecting corals, mollusks, and plankton essential to food chains. The origin of this massive excess of carbon dioxide remains debated. Several hypotheses suggest intense volcanic eruptions related to tectonic plate fracturing or the formation of vast igneous plateaus where enormous quantities of lava were released in a short time. These eruptions release large amounts of gases, including CO2, which accumulates in the atmosphere. This warming can also trigger the release of gases stored in sediments, amplifying the greenhouse effect. Thus, the Earth enters a vicious cycle, increasing temperatures, ecosystem instability, and ocean acidification. The accumulation of carbon dioxide and ocean acidification alone cannot explain all the upheavals. Simultaneously, the level of dissolved oxygen in the seas drops quickly, which is dramatic for marine life. Dissolved oxygen, or dioxygen available in the water, is essential for the respiration of fish, mollusks, crustaceans, and microorganisms. In organic-rich black shales, notably in the Arkhangelsk region, a chemical signature indicates that available oxygen dropped to less than 40% of what is found today in a healthy ocean. To understand the impact of this oxygen decline, one must imagine the stress on marine life. Fish and invertebrates need oxygen to feed, reproduce, and survive. When it becomes scarce, sensitive species perish or migrate to better oxygenated zones. Coastal and deep ocean habitats become anoxic, favoring bacteria adapted to these extreme conditions. Consequently, numerous species disappear or see their populations collapse, weakening the food chain. The undecomposed organic matter accumulates in sediments, forming black shales, indicators of an oxygen-poor environment. This dual constraint of a warmer atmosphere rich in CO2, associated with oceans depleted of oxygen, causes significant ecological upheavals. Ancient coral reefs struggle to survive, very sensitive to pH variations and falling oxygen levels. In the pelagic water column, fragile shelled plankton also suffer, while filter feeders struggle to extract the necessary oxygen. These episodes of massive dissolved oxygen decline are called anoxic crises, where vast oceanic areas become very low in dioxygen. The black shales of Archangel clearly reveal these variations due to their slow formation at the bottom of the seas. The sediments capture, layer by layer, organic and mineral remnants. In low oxygen environments, decomposition slows down, promoting the proliferation of sulfate-reducing bacteria that preserve organic matter. Hundreds of millions of years later, these dark sediments, rich in carbon, testify to past anoxic conditions. Geologists analyze their chemical, mineralogical, and isotopic composition to reconstruct the evolution of oxygen. A strong presence of organic matter indicates a low influx of dioxygen during deposition. The early Lipingian and Wuchipingian climatic shift also affects terrestrial fauna and flora, despite fragmentary fossil records. Animals near the coasts, dependent on estuaries and lagoons for reproduction, undergo stress from warming, acidification, and oxygen scarcity. Coastal vegetation, composed of primitive seed plants and ferns adapted to salinity, is influenced by warmer tides and oxygen-poor soils. This marine disturbance reduces food resources for terrestrial carnivores, particularly amphibious and semi-aquatic predators, disrupting the entire food chain. In this apocalyptic landscape, some species survive thanks to adaptations to oxygen-poor waters or by temporarily colonizing isolated areas. The fossil record shows that some marine creatures migrate to polar regions or evolve to better withstand hypoxia. Meanwhile, certain algae and cyanobacteria thrive in these warm and low-competition waters, causing colorful blooms. In contrast, reef-building corals decline significantly, reducing their role as natural barriers and depriving many organisms of a protective habitat. The abrupt drop in oxygen occurred over just a few 100,000 years, a very short time span on a geological scale. This rapid period is described as an announced ecological crisis. When CO2 exceeds a certain threshold, the rapid acidification of the seas and the drop in oxygen trigger a cascade of extinctions. This crisis, just before the end of the Permian, heralds the greatest extinction of all time, which will occur shortly after. At the beginning of the early Lipingian, in the Wuchia-Pingian, between 259.8 and 254.2 million years ago, marine life already shows signs of an impending major upheaval. We will explore the world of giant fusulinids, the phenomenon of dwarfism, and the emergence of a pre-modernist ichthyofauna, illustrated by the fascinating genus Bobasatrania. For those new to these strange beings, each point will be clearly explained, painting a vivid picture of these precursors of an imminent crisis. Fusulinids are tiny foraminifera, unicellular protists with a nucleus that make a calcareous shell in spiral or elongated shapes. Although microscopic, some fusulinids from the Permian reached exceptional sizes, with shells several centimeters or inches long, hence their nickname, giants. Their well-fossilized shells provide scientists with a valuable record of marine evolution over millions of years. In 2023, new studies revealed an intriguing phenomenon. Giant fusulinids show a progressive shrinking called dwarfism. This term refers to a significant reduction in the size of a species compared to its usual size in the fossil record. By measuring fossils from Asia and Eastern Europe, scientists found that the average size of these calcareous protozoans steadily decreased over time. This discovery is major. The shrinking of these marine organisms reflects their sensitivity to increasing ecological pressures. Sensitive to water quality, temperature, and chemistry, any change impacts their morphology. This phenomenon is a warning sign of an ecological crisis, particularly related to CO2 fluctuations and ocean acidification. Calcification, the process by which they form their shells from dissolved elements, is altered in acidic waters. Parallel to the decline of giant fusulinids, a pre-modernist ichthyofauna is emerging, marking the transition between Paleozoic and Mesozoic fish. This group encompasses fish species from a given region. Among them, Bobasatrania illustrates this progressive change. This fish, with its distinct morphology, is an ancestor of modern bony fish, although more archaic than those of the Triassic. Paleontologists describe Bobasatrania as a genus with a skeleton and scales that mix ancient traits with evolved characteristics. Its jaw and fins indicate more active swimming, while retaining primitive aspects from the Paleozoic. This pre-modernist status illustrates the multiple adaptations of the time to exploit various ecological niches. The study of these fossils reveals biological ingenuity as an environmental crisis loomed. In 2025, a study in paleoichthyology revealed the discovery of two new species close to Bobasatrania, unearthed in Greenland. At the time, this coastal region, well situated on the supercontinent, favored fossilization thanks to suitable sediments. Researchers found fragments of scales, gill arches, and dorsal fins, allowing them to reconstruct the silhouette of the fish. These specimens, close to Bobasatrania, differ, however, in the shape of the head and the arrangement of dorsal spines. The growing richness of pre-modernist fish, coupled with the decline of giant fusulinids, illustrates the complex dynamics of marine ecosystems. Some groups decline under environmental pressure, while others adopt new adaptive strategies. This contrast, referred to as a precursor of crisis, reflects opposing signs: the emergence of evolved species on one side and the gradual disappearance of once thriving organisms on the other. Climate, water chemistry, and the configuration of the continents fuel this growing instability. Fluctuations in the temperature of the Wuchia-Pingian seas influenced biodiversity. These variations affected the solubility of oxygen and the ability of organisms to feed or reproduce. Fusilinids, dependent on stable chemistry to build their calcareous shells, were particularly sensitive to pH and temperature changes. More mobile fish could adapt better, although some less tolerant species also suffered. This moment in the early Lopingian marks the beginning of growing disturbances. The erosion of giant fusilinids, revealed by recent measurements, highlights their fragility in the face of environmental changes. Meanwhile, the rise of a pre-modernist ichthyofauna, embodied by Bobacitrania, demonstrates the adaptive capacity of some fish. The discovery of new species in Greenland illustrates this vitality. Although the Permian-Triassic mass extinction is imminent, the precursor signs are already visible in fossils and geological strata. For those wanting to understand the deep history of the Earth, these signals remind us that evolution is always in balance with the environment. In the early Lopingian, the story of giant fusilinids and pre-modernist fish goes beyond mere scientific narrative. It shows how much life, from the smallest organism to the largest creatures, is influenced by planetary forces. Recent data confirm this turning point, where entire groups see their destiny transformed by the planet's evolution. Gazing at a fragment of a fusilinid shell, or the skeleton of a fish like Bobacitrania, is to grasp a key moment in life's history. The shrinking giant fusilinids testify to an unstable period. From Triassic reptiles to modern fish, emerging fish herald future marine life. Each fossil tells a tale of survival or decline, painting a portrait of changing oceans. This chapter of the early Lopingian reveals the fragility and resilience of life in the face of planetary upheavals. During the late Permian, terrestrial life evolved into new groups, including cynodonts, vertebrates with teeth and jaws already very close to mammals. Their name, derived from the Greek kion and odis, meaning dog and tooth respectively, reflects these advanced characteristics, foreshadowing the evolution towards mammals. To better grasp their importance, we will explore their habitat, anatomy, and recent discoveries illuminating their role in the history of life. At the beginning of the Lopingian, or Wuchiapingian, the climate experienced strong seasonal variations. On the supercontinent Pangaea, vast interior areas far from the seas were covered with sparse vegetation. These semi-arid regions forced terrestrial vertebrates to face significant temperature differences between day and night. Natural selection then favored those capable of regulating their temperature and surviving with limited resources. Among these creatures, cynodonts stand out with jaws reminiscent of mammals. The joint between the dentary and the squamosal bone of the skull develops, offering more flexibility. Their teeth are functionally differentiated, some pointed for piercing, others adapted for chewing, prefiguring the mammalian dentition. Their more upright posture provides a more agile and enduring locomotion compared to primitive tetrapods. Procinosuchus, one of the earliest aquatic cynodonts, gets its name from before the dog crocodile and embodies a precursor of mammals. It lived in the Karoo Basin in southern Africa, then dotted with rivers, wetlands, and arid plains subject to seasonal floods. Adapted to a semi-aquatic lifestyle, it had strong legs, a stocky body, and sharp teeth, allowing it to hunt primitive fish and freshwater invertebrates. In 2025, a major discovery enhanced our understanding of Procinosuchus. An almost complete juvenile specimen was uncovered, preserved in an ancient geological layer. Through 3D microtomography, researchers revealed an advanced internal structure, notably a rudimentary middle ear. This key detail confirms that, well before the Triassic, some of the auditory innovations of mammals were already in the making with late Permian cynodonts. Associated with the diversification of cynodonts, vegetation evolved to better resist drought. Seed plants, like some ferns and related conifers, developed deep roots, reduced leaves, and water-saving mechanisms. These adaptations altered the ecosystem, influencing the availability of food and shelter. Cynodonts specialized in predation or refuge gained an evolutionary advantage in these niches. The study of fossilized pollen and spores, known as palynology, offers valuable clues about past biodiversity. By analyzing these particles preserved in sediments, researchers detect a dwindling of certain groups of insects, likely related to rapid changes in flora and nutritional resources. The contraction of pollinated plant populations had a cascading effect, affecting the survival of specialized insects. This dwindling does not mean the total extinction of insects, but a notable decline of certain lineages. Several hypotheses explain this phenomenon, including the gradual aridification, making laying eggs and larval feeding difficult. There is also the late Permian's climatic instability, alternating between sudden coolings and warmings, stressing the winged fauna. Some insects then developed more efficient survival strategies, while others declined, paving the way for forms better adapted to the Triassic. At first glance, the dwindling of insects may seem unrelated to the evolution of cynodonts, but ecosystems are interconnected. Arthropods provided an important protein source for young vertebrates, influencing their growth. However, other resources like small vertebrates or carcasses could compensate for this decline, showing the dietary flexibility that favored the evolutionary success of advanced therapsids. The discovery of a young Procinosuchus in 2025 reveals a remarkable potential for adaptation. Microtomography uncovered partially ossified cranial sutures and an innovative auditory bone structure, suggesting more developed acoustic capabilities than in primitive reptiles. This sensory improvement would have helped in detecting prey and predators in the waters of the Karoo, evidencing an evolution of senses crucial for survival and adaptation to diverse habitats. The examination of bone microstructure reveals growth rhythms and possible diseases or traumas in cynodonts. The analysis of growth lines sheds light on their longevity and sexual maturity. These advancements, made possible by modern imaging techniques, also allow comparison of the evolutionary diversification of cynodonts with that of other contemporary groups to better understand its speed and mechanisms. This phase of the late Permian marks a climate in upheaval, forcing species to adapt or perish. Cynodonts, with their robust physiology, specialized dentition, and social behaviors, exploited various habitats, from the semi-aquatic areas of the Karoo to the sparse plains. Their ability to occupy multiple niches likely enabled them to better face the ecological crises of the late Permian. The late Permian, often associated with its massive extinction, also reveals intense natural creativity, as illustrated by the evolution of cynodonts. Procinosuchus, one of the earliest aquatic cynodonts, demonstrates this innovation, notably with a rudimentary middle ear foreshadowing future mammals. Meanwhile, the dwindling of insects, highlighted by palynology, underscores the increasing fragility of ecosystems and the interdependence between fauna and flora. The diversification of cynodonts in the late Permian marks a key step toward the future domination of mammals. These small, agile, and resilient predators begin a destiny in desert margins and ancient riverbeds that will transform life on Earth. Thanks to microtomography and the analysis of fossil pollen, their story reveals the remarkable plasticity of life, capable of innovating in the face of a changing world. The precursor volcanism of the early Lopingian testifies to a major geological event at the end of the Paleozoic. In southern China, the Amphibian province experiences immense flood basalt flows. Thick lava sheets extend over vast areas and pile up in layers. These vast volcanic plateaus, eroded to form staircase-like structures, are called traps, a term of Swedish origin that describes their characteristic terrain. To accurately date these lava flows, researchers use the argon-argon method, which analyzes argon isotopes trapped in basaltic minerals. By measuring the ratios between argon-40 and argon-39, they determine the crystallization age of the rocks. This technique has shown that the majority of the volcanism dates back to about 259 million years, at the beginning of the early Lopingian. This chronology allows these volcanic episodes, occurring in several close waves, to be associated with contemporary environmental changes. The chemical composition of these basalts reveals their deep origin. They come from a mantle plume, an upwelling of hot and less dense material from the depths of the Earth. Upon reaching the base of the lithosphere, this intense heat causes partial melting of the rocks. The basaltic magma thus formed accumulates and then rises to the surface, causing explosive eruptions or vast flows extending over several hundred kilometers or miles. In the case of Amphibian, as with other major global basalt ensembles, these outpourings have strongly influenced the climate. The enormous quantities of lava release gases, including sulfur dioxide, which turns into sulfate aerosols. This phenomenon caused a transient cooling of the Earth's surface by about 2 degrees Celsius, or 4 degrees Fahrenheit, according to estimates derived from sedimentary deposits and the properties of these particles. This cooling, although brief on a geological scale, significantly impacted ecosystems by temporarily reducing the available surface and superficial ocean heat. However, sustained volcanism also released carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that, over the long term, trapped heat and promoted gradual warming. After this initial drop linked to sulfate aerosols, the temperature thus experienced a climatic rebound, rising again under the combined effect of persistent volcanic gases. To understand this well, one must distinguish the effects and durations of volcanic gases. Sulfur dioxide quickly forms aerosols suspended in the atmosphere for a few years, creating a temporary cooling effect. In contrast, the longer-lasting carbon dioxide remains in the air for thousands of years, influencing the climate over the long term. This difference creates climatic cycles alternating between rapid cooling phases and slower returns to warmth. In the early Lopingian, the volumes of lava emitted were impressive, covering areas far greater than the modern flows of Iceland. The Amphibian deposits sometimes reach several thousand meters or thousands of feet in thickness. Their extent far exceeded current borders, as tectonic plates have since drifted. These estimates are based on field studies, satellite images, and deep drilling. These volcanic episodes occurred in successive waves, each lasting several hundred to thousands of years, interspersed with calmer periods. Each phase released a peak of gases, notably sulfur dioxide, capable of temporarily altering the climate. When activity decreased, sulfate aerosol concentration dropped, allowing the temperature to rise again, especially under the effect of increased carbon dioxide. Describing this volcanism as precursor means it heralds more significant upheavals to come. Even when limited to the early Lopingian, notable impacts on the fauna and flora of the time are already observable, without delving into the mass extinction studied elsewhere. This episode illustrates how Earth reacts to massive magma intrusions, an initial surface cooling, followed by a gradual warming due to carbon dioxide accumulation. The geology of the Amphibian reveals great complexity. Some basalts contain vesicles, fossil bubbles trapping volcanic gases emitted during the eruption. These bubbles primarily contain sulfur dioxide, but also carbon monoxide, methane, and halogens. Through microscopy and mass spectrometry, scientists obtain valuable clues about the eruption's course and their atmospheric impact. The volcanic eruptions may also have altered the chemistry of nearby oceans. The hot lava reacted with seawater, forming unique mineral deposits. Moreover, sulfur dioxide fell as acid rain, altering soils and nearby aquatic ecosystems. These traces of acidification are still detectable today in ancient sediments through specific geochemical signatures. The massive eruptions also released toxic heavy metals, such as mercury and arsenic, contaminating the environment. International researchers today measure their imprint in the early Lopingian's geological strata. Even in trace amounts, these pollutants confirm the intensity of the volcanism and reinforce argon-argon dating. Amphibian volcanism in the early Lopingian is characterized by several phases. First, immense basaltic flows from a mantle plume. Then, the rapid release of sulfur dioxide forms a sulfate aerosol veil, cooling the Earth by about 2 degrees Celsius or 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Over the emissions, carbon dioxide accumulates and triggers gradual warming. This alternation illustrates the complexity of interactions between the geosphere and the atmosphere. Imagine a world where immense fissures spew torrents of incandescent magma, covering hundreds of kilometers or miles of lava. The sky then veils under a cloud of sulfate particles, temporarily cooling the climate. Then, as these aerosols fall, the accumulated carbon dioxide creates a greenhouse effect that warms the atmosphere again. In this back and forth between fleeting coolness and resurgent warmth, living beings must adapt and migrate to find more favorable places. The early Lopingian is a key period for understanding how Earth's internal phenomena have disrupted the climate. Argon-argon dating places the major volcanic eruptions of Amphibian at about 259 million years ago, confirming their pivotal role in these environmental transformations. By combining this dating, analyzing the gases trapped in the basalts, and studying the sediments, scientists paint a picture of a rapid, intense upheaval spread over multiple phases. This volcanic sequence of the early Lopingian shows how Earth, in a critical period, releases enormous amounts of materials and gases, affecting local geology and global climate. While the initial cooling linked to sulfur dioxide is temporary, the lasting increase in carbon dioxide creates a deeper imbalance. This complex process, spread over hundreds of thousands of years, reveals the climate's sensitivity to major geological changes. This volcanism influences not only the atmosphere and oceans, but also life on nearby continents. The basalt pulses of the Amatian province, dated to about 259 million years ago through the argon-argon method, mark volcanism of exceptional magnitude. The strong emission of sulfur dioxide created an aerosol veil in the upper atmosphere, reflecting a portion of the sun's rays and causing a cooling of about 2 degrees C or 36 degrees. Then, the slower yet enduring release of carbon dioxide reversed this trend, leading to a global warming that marked the end of the Permian. At the very end of the Permian, between 254.2 and 251.9 million years before our era, the biosphere was subjected to extreme pressures. Brutal climatic changes, ocean acidification, and the massive release of toxic substances converged into a major crisis. It was one of the most violent extinctions in history, marking the end of a prosperous era and the beginning of profound ecological upheaval. Two major factors stand out: the intense volcanism of the Siberian traps and a recent hypothesis on the near irreversible destruction of the ozone layer by halogenated aerosols in the stratosphere. To measure the extent of these events, we start with present-day Siberia, where the Siberian traps extend, vast plateaus formed by stacked lava flows. These outpourings represent one of the largest known volcanic episodes, with about 3 million cubic kilometers, or 719,712 cubic miles of lava poured out in less than a million years. In 2024, the team of Zhang et al. Refined the dating through the study of zircon crystals, confirming that these gigantic flows coincide precisely with the dramatic drop in biodiversity. This reinforces the idea that this massive volcanism played a direct role in this global decline. The immense amount of volcanic material released triggered several mechanisms profoundly affecting the biosphere. The emitted carbon dioxide trapped Earth's heat, causing a rapid global warming of several degrees Celsius, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit or more. Meanwhile, the sulfur dioxide transformed into sulfate aerosols that, in the short term, reflected sunlight, causing temporary cooling. But over the long term, the effect of CO2 dominated, establishing a warmer, unstable climate conducive to profound environmental upheavals. This volcanism also had a major impact on the oceans. The massive emission of carbon dioxide acidified the waters, as this gas dissolves in the sea and forms carbonic acid, lowering the pH. This acidification makes it more difficult for shells and skeletons of corals, mollusks, and plankton relying on calcium carbonate to form. At the end of the Permian, a marked scarcity of these groups is observed, a direct reflection of an environment turned hostile due to the combined effect of warming and acidification. One of the most worrying hypotheses concerning this mass extinction relates to the degradation of the ozone layer, which protects Earth from harmful ultraviolet rays. A 2024 study published in Chemical Geology suggests that the Siberian eruptions injected significant quantities of halogenated aerosols into the stratosphere. These compounds, rich in chlorine and bromine, are very effective at destroying ozone. Even small amounts can cause a dramatic drop, up to 70%, in the protective layer over vast regions of the globe. The major loss of the ozone layer would have had devastating effects on surface terrestrial and marine organisms. Deprived of this natural filter, highly harmful ultraviolet B rays would directly reach the ground. Many plants, without effective protection, would experience intense stress. At the cellular level, these radiations disturbed DNA synthesis, causing mutations and physiological disorders. Young shoots and seeds, particularly vulnerable, saw their viability reduced, threatening long-term plant regeneration and diversity. In animals, this increase in ultraviolet rays caused skin disorders, eye damage, and a decrease in fertility. Amphibians, sensitive due to their thin skin and moist environments, were particularly vulnerable. Insects experienced disruptions in their life cycles when their eggs or larvae were exposed to too many rays. These losses upset food chains. Fewer insects meant less food for predators, weakening the entire ecosystem. The ability of halogen aerosols to reach the stratosphere depends on the strength of eruptions. When a volcanic plume is powerful enough, it crosses the tropopause, the boundary between the lower and upper atmosphere, carrying these chemical compounds with it. Studies of the Siberian traps show that during certain episodes, the lava fountains and ash columns were so violent that they projected vast amounts of gas and particles high into the sky. Several factors transformed the Earth during the late Lopingian and Changxingian. Intense volcanism released substantial amounts of greenhouse gases, causing a vicious cycle between global warming and ocean acidification. At the same time, the massive destruction of the ozone layer would have exposed terrestrial and coastal life to ultraviolet radiations, weakening their survival and reproduction. Paleontological data confirm this series of disasters. Fossil layers show a gradual collapse of numerous lineages, both among marine invertebrates and terrestrial vertebrates. Primitive reptiles and amphibians are gradually disappearing. The ancient forests, witnesses of rich biodiversity, give way to horizons loaded with volcanic ash and vitrified coals, remnants of global fires. Corals, already weakened by the chemical changes in oceans, struggled to survive. Algae, essential to the food chain of many organisms, also declined sharply, threatening the base of certain marine ecosystems. This is why the Permian-Triassic boundary is called the Great Dying. Indeed, more than 80% of marine species, and a large part of terrestrial species, disappear. According to recent research, Siberian volcanism combined with the destruction of the ozone layer would have precipitated this major extinction. But the story doesn't end there. This crisis paved the way for a major redistribution of life on Earth. After the disappearance of dominant species, new groups quickly occupied these free ecological niches. The Triassic, the period immediately following the Permian, sees the emergence of the first reptiles precursors of dinosaurs and the expansion of new adapted vegetations. While the precise role of each factor remains debated, it is clear that the combination of massive volcanism, warming, sea acidification, and potential ozone destruction triggered this major biological catastrophe. We enter the most dramatic phase of the Permian, at the very end of the late Lopingian. The biosphere is about to experience a major crisis, one of the most severe extinctions in Earth's history. Beyond the climatic and volcanic chaos, we will explore the successive phases of mortality, called pulses, and discover how recent data reveal an ultra-rapid rise in temperatures. Dive with me into this tragic evolution, described chronologically, where finely detailed geological clues unveil a complex and devastating mechanism. Before examining these pulses, let us recall that Shen and his team estimate that 81% of marine species and 57% of families disappeared. In biology, a species groups organisms capable of reproducing among themselves, while a family includes several genera. This massive loss affected reefs, coastal lagoons, and pelagic zones, marking a profound ecological imbalance, well beyond natural fluctuations. To determine whether an extinction occurs all at once or in stages, paleontologists analyze geological strata. Each sediment layer captures a moment in Earth's history. A significant drop in the number of species, followed by a slight recovery, and then another drop indicates multiple episodes, called mortality pulses. 3 key moments are identified: the middle Changxingjian, the P5 boundary in the late Permian, and the Permian-Triassic horizon, marking the transition between these 2 periods. The first mortality pulse, located in the middle Changxingjian, already devastates a significant portion of marine communities. Corals see their populations plummet, and many mollusks begin to disappear. Under the combined pressure of volcanism, acidification, and lack of oxygen, these losses affect several regions, notably in Asia, Europe, and North America. This global phenomenon signals the approach of the extinction peak. Next comes the P5 boundary, a key moment identified through microfossils like Foraminifera and Conodonts. Biodiversity continues to decline, and the survivors of the first pulse struggle to rebuild their populations. The sediments show a strong presence of undecomposed organic matter, revealing oxygen-poor waters. These asphyxiating conditions trap marine fauna, intensifying the loss during this second pulse. The third and last pulse occurs at the very end of the Changxingjian, marking the transition from the Paleozoic to the Mesozoic. It is the apex of extinction, where many already weakened animal families disappear permanently. The fossils of brachiopods, corals, and other marine invertebrates drop sharply, witnessing the complete collapse of ocean ecosystems. Terrestrial plants and animals also suffer losses, but here, we focus mainly on the spectacular destruction of marine environments. Recent research published in 2025 in Frontiers in Earth Science proposes a precise model. The planet experienced an abrupt rise of 10 degrees C or 18 degrees C in less than 40,000 years. On a geological scale, this rapid increase is almost instantaneous, causing a chain reaction: melting of residual ice, increased release of greenhouse gases, disruption of ocean currents, and worsening marine hypoxia. This rapid temperature rise likely triggered the final fatal pulse. To calculate this temperature rise, geologists use paleothermometers, notably the analysis of oxygen isotopes in conodont or mollusk fossils. These measurements indicate the water temperature at the time these organisms lived. By studying the stratigraphic layers, a thermal curve is drawn. A rapid shift to higher temperatures signals a dramatic climate event. The 2025 study correlates these isotopic data with other indices, such as sediment and carbon composition, confirming this catastrophic warming. This fast flaring heat left little chance for species already weakened by lack of oxygen and acidification. Corals, often at the edge of their thermal tolerance, suffered massive bleaching and high mortality. Mollusks and brachiopods, unable to build their shells in overly acidic waters, also struggled. Each additional stress exacerbated an already fragile environment, leading to a cascading extinction of many lineages. To better understand, some paleontologists view this phenomenon as a single fatal process fueled by multiple factors. Massive volcanism in Siberia released huge amounts of greenhouse gases, triggering a rapid rise in temperatures. At the same time, acidification and hypoxia imposed deadly constraints on marine organisms. The pulses in the rocks reflect this fatal crescendo, each phase further diminishing life until the Permian's final catastrophe. Imagine food chains breaking apart, predators deprived of prey, marine herbivores running out of algae, and corals with reefs collapsing into debris fields. Only a few species, thanks to physiological strategies, survived in limited refuges, in deep waters or restricted environments. This massive disappearance shows how inhospitable Earth had become for most life. An instantaneous rise of 10 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees in less than 40,000 years marks the ultimate breaking point. Before this rapid thermal leap, some organisms still held on. Afterward, there was almost no escape. Specialists debate a possible additional volcanic contribution, astronomical influences, or an oceanic disruption, but the coincidence between this peak in heat and the last extinction pulse is clear. During the end of the Lopingian and the Changxingian, Earth underwent a major crisis deeply upsetting continental life. Landscapes, weakened by climatic imbalances, saw their forests massively destroyed, transforming into vitrified coals. Later, exceptional fossil footprints discovered in the Alps bear witness to the fauna that inhabited these mountainous regions at the time. This section clearly explains these phenomena and the accompanying scientific evidence. The term chlorophyll-enriched vitrified coals refers to a rare phenomenon related to colossal fires that consumed vast forests. Typically, combustion reduces plant matter to ashes or brittle charcoal, but here, the intense heat and rapid combustion transform the wood into vitreous carbon, frozen as if by a sudden cooling. The presence of chlorophyll residues reveals that the combustion was so rapid that some of the original plant compounds were trapped in this special coal. These clues suggest that episodes of mega revegetation, where flora proliferates massively after a crisis, were brutally interrupted by extremely violent fires. This ravaged the forests, developed during brief climatic lulls. Scientists estimate that the rapid alternation of dry periods and irregular rains favored the fast growth of dense forests, vulnerable to violent fires. Chemical analyses of deposits show an abnormal accumulation of vitrified coals, evidence of spectacular conflagrations on a planetary scale. This massive destruction of forests deprived many herbivores of their food, provoking a domino effect on terrestrial food chains. While these devastations continued, a fascinating discovery was made in the Italian Alps at about 2,900 meters or 9,514 feet of altitude. In 2024, a team of paleontologists unearthed fossil footprints of several tetrapod species, indicating their presence in this mountainous area at the end of the Permian. This multi-species site offers a rare glimpse of the terrestrial fauna of this critical period. To fully understand this discovery, remember that at the end of the Permian, the emerging lands formed a single supercontinent known as Pangaea. The Alps did not yet exist as high mountains, but the region was already undergoing tectonic pressures that would shape these reliefs over time. The fossil footprints found in these rock layers testify to the passage of tetrapods, animals walking on four limbs. Several clues, such as the number of toes and spacing of the steps, indicate the simultaneous presence of reptiles and amphibians. This coexistence in semi-arid environments, at latitudes or altitudes hitherto little considered as refuges, is a valuable testimony to terrestrial biodiversity just before the Great Extinction. In reconstructing this landscape, one imagines vast areas of vegetation mixing dry soils and seasonal waterways, offering reptiles and amphibians food and shelters for reproduction. Their presence at altitude suggests a search for more humid areas, less affected by heat and drought. Amphibians, sensitive to humidity for breathing and reproduction, indicate that conditions remain sufficiently mild. As for reptiles, better adapted to dry life thanks to their resistant skin and protected eggs, they exploited a greater diversity of habitats. This coexistence testifies to the richness of biodiversity before the final collapse. These same alpine regions, witnesses to these ancient stories, also recount an inevitable collapse. If we find vitrified coals and fossil traces of many animals, we know that, at the transition to the Triassic, terrestrial life underwent a brutal demographic collapse. The drastic scarcity of vegetation played a major role. Without stable forests or sufficient resources, ecosystems collapsed. Only a few groups capable of withstanding environmental stress survived, as explained by paleontologists. The discovery of these footprints in the Alps reveals that at the end of the Permian, despite the pressures, certain ecological niches persisted, offering a temporary refuge for reptiles and amphibians. Simultaneously, the presence of vitrified coals enriched in chlorophyll on several continents testifies to the violence of the fires. These fires, fueled by an unstable climate and dense vegetation, severely weakened terrestrial ecosystems. This temperature rise, probably linked to massive volcanic emissions and disruptions of the carbon cycle, compounded these devastations. Ultimately, the association of these phenomena created an extremely vulnerable context for terrestrial fauna. These upheavals left their mark in geological records, from vitrified coal to rare alpine fossil footprints. These last traces recall the final survivors before the greatest extinction in history. This chapter illustrates how warming, acidification, marine anoxia, and continental disturbances combine their effects to disrupt terrestrial biodiversity. The study of the continental impacts of the late Lopingian and Changxingian reveals the vulnerability of the terrestrial world in the face of global crises. The vitrified coals indicate fires of rare intensity, while the alpine fossil traces reveal life still clinging on in hostile environments. Then, at the threshold of the Triassic, the majority of survivors succumb. The disappearance of forests, the impoverishment of habitats, and climate disruptions caused the near-total collapse of food chains. This confirms that this great dying affected all major environments, including the continents. This chapter on continental impacts reveals the extent of landscape transformation at the end of the Permian. From burning forests to chlorophyll-rich vitrified coals to the last footprints of reptiles and amphibians, bear witness to a slow agony followed by a brutal collapse. Despite this cataclysm, Earth's resilience allowed the emergence of new forms in the Triassic, as confirmed by precious geological records. Here we are at the end of the Permian, specifically during the late Lopingian, about 254 to 252 million years ago. Just before the final Great Extinction, the oceans undergo dramatic upheavals. Deprived of oxygen, marine life declines sharply. This period corresponds to one of the episodes of anoxia and euxenia, marked by the presence of toxic sulfides, among the most severe ever observed on Earth. Anoxia means the absence of dissolved oxygen in the water. Euxenia refers to water saturated with hydrogen sulfide, a gas toxic to many organisms. In these extreme conditions, marine life is plunged into an environment low in oxygen and laden with sulfur compounds, making survival difficult, especially at the bottom of ocean basins. At the heart of these oxygen-deprived oceans, mineral particles called framboidal pyrites form. Nicknamed fool's gold, pyrite is composed of iron and sulfur. These small spherical aggregates, visible under a microscope, resemble tiny raspberries. They appear especially in environments almost devoid of oxygen and rich in sulfides. Framboidal pyrite is a valuable indicator for scientists, attesting to past euxinic conditions in marine sediments. Framboidal pyrite forms through complex chemical reactions. In an oxygen-depleted environment, marine bacteria respire thanks to dissolved sulfates. This process releases hydrogen sulfide, a reactive compound that combines with the iron in the sediments. These microcrystals of iron and sulfur then assemble into spherical aggregates visible in the fossil strata of the late Lipingian. Their abundance reveals a major environmental crisis to paleontologists. Simultaneously, the extreme acidification of the waters is evidenced by a drop in oceanic pH, meaning an increase in hydrogen ions. This acidity makes the water corrosive for organisms building calcareous skeletons, such as corals. These structures then dissolve more easily, threatening the fragile balance of reefs. Coral reefs, once rich in biodiversity, begin to decompose. Coral, formed by tiny polyps, struggles to maintain its skeleton in chemically degraded waters. Without these habitats, the entire marine food chain wavers. Fish and other vulnerable organisms lose their shelters and resources. Gradually, this fragile balance threatens all marine life. Even the trilobites, marine arthropods with a long evolutionary success since the Cambrian, do not survive this downward spiral. At the end of the Permian, their population collapses abruptly. Extreme acidification compromises the formation of their mineralized shell, while anoxia drastically reduces their marine habitats. Gradually, these emblematic creatures disappear forever. Marine sediments reveal a massive collapse of oceanic ecosystems. Reefs fragment, and the majority of sessile invertebrates disappear. Cephalopods, brachiopods, and other groups suffer heavy losses. Only some sulfur bacteria, capable of tolerating very oxygen-poor waters, thrive, forming immense microbial mats. For most complex marine species, conditions quickly become unlivable. Paleoclimatic reconstructions reveal a rapid rise in temperatures exceeding 10 Dahlgren or 18 degree over a very short period on the geological scale. This global warming, combined with the loss of oxygen and the acidification of waters, constitutes a triple threat to marine life. The greenhouse effect, reinforced by volcanic emissions and methane releases, amplified the chemical and thermal instability of oceans. The carbon cycle experiences significant disturbances. A rapid rise in atmospheric carbon dioxide leads to both global warming and increased absorption by the oceans, thus intensifying their acidification. This acidity weakens calcified shells and skeletons. Paleontologists have identified in several Permian basins carbon isotopes revealing significant fluctuations, confirming that the crisis of the late Lipingian is accompanied by major environmental upheavals, unprecedented in the history of life. Hydrogen sulfide, abundantly produced during euxinic episodes, is highly toxic. If a few anaerobic bacteria survive, the majority of multicellular organisms die from asphyxiation. This gas can also escape from the waters into the atmosphere, threatening life in coastal areas. During this phase of planetary euxinia, continental margins were probably deadly zones for coastal and terrestrial fauna, accentuating the magnitude of this ecological crisis. The study of planktonic foraminifera and other marine microfossils reveals profound breaks in their distribution, indicating that the ocean has turned into a nearly widespread biological desert. Only a few species survived by taking refuge in more temperate waters or less hostile chemical environments. Yet, under the combined pressure of anoxia, euxinia, and acidification, the ocean became a death trap for the majority of life forms. Recent data indicate that more than 80% of marine species have disappeared. Corals, sponges, brachiopods, and bivalves were decimated en masse. This irreversible shift caused flourishing ecosystems to collapse at the beginning of the Lipingian in just a few tens of thousands of years. Aquatic life, once abundant, sank, marking the end of a world hundreds of millions of years old. In this context of ecological catastrophe, the end of the Permian marks the beginning of a new era. Marine sediments reveal clear signs: high sulfur levels, layers of volcanic ash, and significant chemical carbon variations. These indicators show that intense volcanic activity, with its massive emissions of lava and gas, profoundly degraded the quality of the waters. This degradation pushed marine life to its limits, leading to final extinction. This oceanic drama reminds us of life's fragility in the face of Earth's imbalances. We are now at the twilight of a turbulent geological era, between about 254.2 and 251.9 million years before our time. It is the late Lopingian, followed by the Changxinggian, the last stage of the Permian. During this period, life on Earth was hit by major upheavals, profound climatic changes, significant geological shocks, and most importantly, a massive extinction. At that time, the majority of marine species disappeared, overwhelmed by hostile environmental conditions. This crisis, often called the Great Dying of the Permian, affects both marine and terrestrial life. It is estimated that about 81% of oceanic species went extinct, deeply disrupting the biosphere and paving the way for new groups that will dominate the Triassic. At the heart of this drama, a paradox emerges. Some forms of life, although weakened, manage to hold on. This mystery fascinates paleontologists, who seek to understand why some organisms survive the ordeal while others disappear. Among the survivors, there are small animals capable of living in oxygen-poor or toxin-laden environments, demonstrating remarkable ecological resilience. In this context, the family of Lingulidae, organisms living in shells shaped like ancient lamps, plays a central role. They find refuge in the deep zones of the ocean, called bathyal refuges, located between 800 and 4,000 meters, or between 2,625 and 13,123 feet below the surface, beyond the continental shelf. Adapted to low light and oxygen scarcity, these Lingulidae can escape catastrophe by retreating to these more stable environments. This strategy of withdrawal into the depths shows how certain organisms manage to avoid the pressure exerted on coastal environments, which are more severely affected by the crisis. Near the surface, water undergoes temperature variations, sometimes exceeding 10 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees Fahrenheit over short periods, causing collapses in the food chain. By descending into the bathyal zone, the Lingulidae and other similar creatures reduce their exposure to thermal fluctuations, sediment supply, and decreased oxygen levels. By studying the fossils of these small organisms, we discover they have simple body structures, allowing them to focus on the essentials, extracting necessary nutrients and tolerating a more hostile environment. The fact that they shelter in soft sediments without significant competition gives them an advantage when usual conditions deteriorate. Thus, the survival of life forms like the Lingulidae shows that structural simplicity and the ability to isolate can become essential weapons. In addition to this biological selection, geologists have made significant progress in precisely dating the critical moment of extinction. They focus notably on a region in China, Meishan, where rock layers expose the transition between the Permian and Triassic. Among them, Meishan Bed 25 has become a global reference as it corresponds to the peak of extinction. To understand the importance of this level, it is essential to know that Meishan Bed 25 gathers key biological and geochemical clues. Fossils indicate the disappearance of species beyond this layer. Furthermore, analyses reveal variations in the isotopic composition of carbon, indicating a major upheaval in the geobiological cycle. These observations, confirmed by other sites, establish that the boundary between the Permian and Triassic is precisely located here. The dating of this gray layer has improved in precision through methods based on radioactive decay. Geologists take samples from the rock and measure the proportion of radioactive elements, which transform at a known rate, to calculate the exact age of the formation. This process, called geochronology, produces results consistent with other analyses, thus reinforcing the reliability of Mason Bed 25 as a reference for studying the end of the Permian. Unlike other sites, often marked by gaps or alterations, Mason offers a nearly continuous sequence. This allows for precisely linking the collapse of marine life to a clear stratigraphic horizon. This reference point serves to compare deposits across several continents, such as Europe or North America, to detect a uniform signature of the global ecological crisis. Over the years, several studies have dated this gray layer of Mason by analyzing the minerals of intercalated ashes. These crystals preserve the trace of the moment they solidified, allowing for the confirmation of the age of the Permian-Triassic boundary. By cross-referencing these data with paleontological information, researchers have validated that the peak of the crisis is indeed at this horizon, confirming the importance of Mason Bed 25.